Hey, welcome back. Glad you stopped by to take a look and see what this video is about. It follows two threads. I thought they intertwined a little bit. One was from the Omaha Introvert, Hannah. She talked about it was music versus lyrics. What do you hear? We're all a little bit different. And the other one was from Jeff Partee, and he had one about listening habits. And when I thought about, both of these, I've been watching the different responses. I thought, you know what, they have a little bit in common. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Hopefully you have a little bit of time we can do this. I won't ramble too long, show a little bit of music, and we'll see what kind of cool response we can come up with. I might be right, I might be wrong. That's up for you to decide, okay? So, first, what makes a great song? What creates it? A lot of times it's that riff, right? You hear that certain riff and it just makes you stop in your tracks. You go, wow, what was that? And it draws you in. That's what a riff's supposed to do. It can be a lyric. You're hearing certain lyrics. They mean something to you. It brings you back to a point in your life or it's something that's going on right now and it helps you or makes you happy. It could just be as simple as chord changes. You're listening to these certain chord changes go and you go, wow, how interesting, how intricate. All those help make a great song. It takes a whole bunch of things put together, right, to make that happen. So, but what are we listening to? So when you hear a great song, what is it? That was Ham's question. Are you listening to just the music? Or is it the lyrics? Or is it a little of both on there? Let's think about that. All right, the beat. I love the beat. That's what really draws me into music. It can be the drum beat, it can be the bass. It's that rhythm. It's that rhythm that, you hear it from jazz, you hear it in the blues. It's in the background, but it keeps things going and moving. That really draws me into a song. From there, I really start listening to the chord changes that are going on. Now, I'm not a musician. I played a little piano, played trumpet, wasn't that great at it. I do play a great air guitar, and I can do chord changes on air guitar, but that's about it. I couldn't even do that video game my kids always Guitar World, Guitar Rock God. I don't even know what the heck it was. They played hours on that. But the beat really draws me in. But there's more to a song than just the beat, right? So, it really comes down to there's also, what about the lyrics? So lyrics. Lyrics are about emotion. Lyrics can make you happy. Lyrics can make you sad. Lyrics can make you angry. Lyrics, you don't have to have them. Think of jazz. Oftentimes you don't have jazz. Lyrics in jazz. You have Ella Fitzgerald. You have a variety of other singers. Louis Armstrong sung, but for the most part, you don't need it. But when you think about rock and some of the greatest songs you've ever heard, there's lyrics in there, and it becomes an important part. Some people really hear lyrics well. It's there. Myself, I really don't hear lyrics. I have a tough time hearing lyrics. And I'm going to show you something a little bit later. Scientifically, there is a reason why I might not hear lyrics as well as somebody else. But, to me, oftentimes the lyric becomes part of the song, but not all the time. And this is kind of where I was looking when Jeff was talking about listening habits. That's part of the reason why, is we can start to get distracted from things. And as we get distracted, we don't hear the lyrics. Or as he said, when you're younger, you really listen to the songs. Well, yeah, because you only get one album, and that week I only have one album. That's the only one I'm playing. And you study it and study it. And now suddenly I come home and I got 12 albums. Well, I'm not going to sit there and read them all. It doesn't mean, though, that I don't find certain albums really important and grab my attention. But lyrics, for the most part, I've struggled a little bit more. I'm the guy that when someone's singing a song and the lyrics are wrong, it's just some crazy ass thing, it's just totally wrong, that's me singing. Yeah, I'm sure it's me, because it's like, what? They said what? really? Wow, did I miss that one up again? So I struggle a little bit with the lyric aspect, and that's kind of why the beat, I can always hear the bass, and I can always hear the drum. Okay, so it goes back to, what did I hear? Dude, did you hear what I hear? Isn't that part of music? You could be sitting there listening to that same song with someone, and all of a sudden, you hear something, but they hear something completely different, because that's how the music's working. You know, your focus is on something. So you're talking about, man, did you hear that bass riff? And he's going, well, I heard the triangle. Did you hear the little bing, bing on the triangle? And they're all excited about that. Obviously, some will hear the lyrics and they'll sit there and talk about and expand upon what they were saying, and you're still trying to get past this piano roll that was going on. So, you know, we don't always hear the same thing. We can be in a room with 10 people and all 10 of us heard something completely different, which I always find fascinating, you know. And when you're listening to the song, and again, it's all part of our listening habits. So what causes this? Why does this happen? Well, let's just look at a couple reasons that I think, you know, that make this thing happen. All right, first off, we're just going to talk about my problem, my personal problem with lyrics, and what I have an issue with is a lot of times I just don't get it. And I think it all goes back to the fact that I hate poetry. I minored in English, and I couldn't stand poetry. You know, a few years back, I bought this book, and it's a book, Robert Frost poems. I said, you know what? I'm going to make myself like poetry. And so I took this and I began reading it, and I looked just like that guy. I said, you know what? If you want to say something, just damn it, tell it to me. Don't put it in a poem. Give it to me. You know, instead of coming up with all this stuff that I don't get it. Problem with songs a lot of times, it's poetry, right? That's what a great lyric is. It's poetry. Unless you keep that song really simple, I'm not going to get it. Bob Dylan, right over my head. That, in fact, that I really can't understand what the hell he's saying. He's from Minnesota. Minnesota, they all talk normal, but I don't know what happened to Bob. Something went wrong there. So I do have this struggle with lyrics. Again, there's other reasons that I think are for that, but I don't always hear it unless there's clear and succinct lyrics. And when I think about that, I'm going to show you this one here. And I don't have these very well done. Okay, Jerry Rafferty's, and this is City to City. Now, someone else did this on a thread, and they said, you know what? It's a song. It's an album that I really don't hear. It's more background. And to them it was. This was a background album to them. To me, this was one I heard the lyrics. This one spoke to me. I sat, I read, I listened to it, but he was easy to understand. Didn't go too fast, didn't go too crazy. You know, I love the Sex Pistols. I can sing part of their chorus, but the rest of it, I don't know what the heck they're really saying. This one I understood, and the lyrics meant something to me. And to this day, I have the full album. So, you know, we talk about, you know, listening habits and having full record albums. On my phone, I have the full album. There's certain albums I have to have the full thing because I want to sit, and when I play it, I want to play the whole thing. This is one of my happy albums. I know, there we go, another happy album. It is a happy album. But other things just really kind of confuse me. And with the lyrics, I just don't hear them right. And again, they become part of the music. They're an instrument. So the lyric becomes an instrument to me. You know, Hannah showed, you know, My Bloody Valentine. I wrote her back, says Cocteau Twins. How about that one? You know, that was definitely what they were doing. So again, for many people, Bob Dylan, that's important to them. They do understand him. They can hear them, and they figure that out. For me, it just went right over me, man. I'm really not sure what he's saying, and I don't want to concentrate that hard on it, because lyrics, you do have to concentrate a little bit. The bane of our existence, the problem of everything. This has gotten out of control. But what are you going to do about it? You know, we have only so much time. We're trying to cram as much as we can. Oftentimes, I have the stereo going. I'm playing an album. I have a book here that I've been reading. I also will have my iPod and iPhone. I might be watching a video, as I'm listening to music, then I'm going to read a book, texting somebody. It's the world of multitasking. Even at work, we'll open up and do something else. I might be watching a video as I'm working. Oh man, my boss might be watching this. This happens. So as we multitask, obviously then the lyrics become harder and harder for us to hear, and that's where we hear the music. But even the music, it becomes background music, unless it's that riff that draws you in, that piece of that music that really grabs your attention. It can be very, very hard to draw you into that whole song, and thus into that whole album. That's where we have to put away things. And when you hear something that really grabs you, you have to put stuff away. I'm going to give you a couple examples here. This was one. This is one of my favorites. It's all black, so you really can't see it. And this was from Lou Reed and John Cale. It's called Songs for Drella. And they did this, and it's about the history. I mean, really, it's the life of Andy Warhol. So they made this whole CD. It is on album, and I need to get that someday on album. But it's the history of Andy Warhol. This you need to sit and listen to. You can't, I mean, I can play it, and I like some of the instrumentation in the back, but it's about lyrics. This is purely about lyrics, about Andy Warhol's life. It's absolutely a wonderful CD and a great listen. I found Andy Warhol fascinating, and who knew, John Cale and Lou Reed, they knew a lot about him. So this is one. Lyrics is more important than the music because they're telling the story. I think of this one, Ben Folds 5, Songs for Silverman. Now, I just saw that album. I just, recently got this as a record day purchase, but this is the one I first had. Very nice. The lyrics, now he has great songs in here. He's a fantastic piano player, so you do hear that, and I can keep this on background. But the thing is, his lyrics are really, they're sharp, they're great. Sometimes they're a little snarky, which is really nice. I like this one. It's called Bastard. The old bastard left his ties in a suit, a brown box, mothballs and bowling shoes, and his opinions, so you'd never have to choose. Pretty soon you'll be an old bastard soon. I love that. He left his opinions for you. He might have died. His opinions are still there and they're bothering you. But that's the kind of stuff. So though I like the music, this became one where lyrics were important. And thus, when you look at our listening habits, it changed for this. This is when I sat and I read and I listened to it and I concentrate. The full, this full album is on my on my phone and iPod because it's that important. So it's a case where that happened. I look at another one here, Green Day, American Idiot. And, when this one came out, this had great riffs. This had fantastic riffs that caught my attention and brought me into it. But there was more to it than that. It was a political statement. Now, you could say that with Bob Dylan. You could say a lot of different bands, 60s, 70s, 80s, it doesn't matter. These guys, though, it seemed like political statements were kind of dying, and they came out and did it. It caught my attention and made me sit down and read this, and thus I began to bond with this album. Lyrics, I loved the music, but the lyrics became more important to me than the music, and thus that's what I really began to concentrate on. And in the car, then I could sing along to all the lyrics with it. So I found that to be a really neat thing. Another one that did that, this just came out last year, the year before, and it was the Drive-By Truckers. And this is American band. I love the Drive-By Truckers, so that helped. But after I listened to it, it's like, I love the music itself, but it's what they were saying. There was things about gun control. There was things about mass shootings on here. It was a political statement. And they were looking at a lot of the problems that we have in America and talking about it and their views on it. And it meant a lot. And so I took out the lyric sheet and I began reading it. and I bonded with this, and my listening habits changed. This wasn't one I'm just going to play. No, I needed to hear and understand what's on there. Lyrics took over the music. I thought the songs were extremely catchy still, and a catchy song is going to make me look at the lyrics a little bit more. But I'd heard what they were talking about, and it became important to me. And it became one of my, very favorite albums. So, lyrics can become just as important as music. Really sound wishy-washy there. Which one is it, Steve? What is it? Are you sitting on the fence on this one? But I have one more thing I really want to show and kind of discuss about this. All right. We all hear differently. We hear different things because our hearing's different, right? Some of us hear better than other ones. But that affects the music. It really, really does. It affects what you hear. It affects so many different things, Hearing, when you love music, everything's about the hearing. And so, all right, we're going to go a little more scientific on this thing now, all right? But it's really a big part of this. All right, there you go, folks. That's called an audiogram. This looks at hearing. Okay, this person really doesn't hear well. But what I want to talk about, and this affects how we hear music. So when you look at this, there we go. Woo, all right. These are low sounds right there. And see that banana? That's actually the speech banana. If the line you're hearing goes above it, you have great hearing. You can hear birds. You can hear the wind blow through leaves. If you have bad hearing, it starts going into the banana and then down. So these are low sounds, and we all generally hear low sounds. So when you think about music, hello, when you think about the music, we hear the bass, right? You hear the bass, you hear the drums, and that's the low sounds, and we can all hear it. As we start getting hearing loss, and you can be young, you can be old, the high sounds go down. When the high sounds go, we lose clarity. And the reason why is we lose letters like F, S, the T's and the K's, the consonants disappear. This affects on how we hear a lyric. Suddenly, we don't hear the lyrics right. It just doesn't happen because we've lost hearing in the high volume. It doesn't mean you're deaf. It doesn't mean you can't hear. It's just you're losing some clarity. Now this person absolutely has terrible problems with it. On the higher, again, when you look at that, they hear the higher stuff, but they also hear the vowels and some of the harder sounding consonants. But the soft ones, the f, s, k, t, they don't hear, and it affects your hearing. It affects the way you hear, and it will affect the way you can hear a lyric. This is part of the problem. It really is. Myself can be part of it. Personally, I wear, I have a hearing aid, and had to get that. I got it actually a few years ago, but really what happened, here's just a little something for you. Hey kids, if you're watching, if you're holding a firecracker and you light a firecracker, it's best not to hold the firecracker close to your ear and thinking about who you're going to throw this firecracker at. You should throw it right away because guess what? They blow up and really screw up your ear. Yeah. And Kiss. Kiss concert absolutely messed it up. So damn you firecrackers, damn you Kiss. You killed my hearing, but this helps. But it's about clarity. When we start to lose any kind of hearing, we always lose the high pitches generally first. That's your clarity. That will affect the way in which you listen to music. There you go. Take it from me. I deal with this stuff. So this brings us back to, music versus lyrics. Myself, I always hear the music first. But if something grabs me, suddenly that lyric takes over. The lyric can be more important. Lyrics without it, I can listen to Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. Everyone knows that's my favorite, right? That does bring emotion. That creates emotion on the way a trumpet plays, the sax plays. There's emotion to that, and you can feel it in there. Lyrics are an easier way to get that emotion because they are talking about something in their life. So lyrics are definitely important. There are a number of albums. I showed you a few of them where I felt the lyrics are much more important than the music. And to Jeff's point, it helps you bond, and it changed my listening habits. I had to put things down, and I sat and I listened to that, and I still try to concentrate on that. Andrew from Tales of the Crate, he had a cool, he did my contest video, but he said in his notes, he had a great video. You haven't seen it. It's really fantastic. But he said, we're all looking to fall in love with an album. Isn't that wonderful? We're all looking for love, to fall in love with more music, with a certain album. And we find that. And when we fall in love with that album, we hear the music, we hear the lyrics, we hear that bass, we hear the guitar. You'll hear that little triangle if it's in there. Cowbells. You will hear a cowbell if that's your favorite song, by gum. But you fall in love with it, and your listening habits will change with that. It's a hectic world, yeah. And as you get more money, you can buy more albums, you can do that, and you tend not to hear them as well. But there are those that make you put everything down and you say, that meant something to me, or wow, what a great statement. And your listening habits can change. So not quite sure if I answered everything, but that's my opinion. And you got to see an audiogram. And how cool was that? We have a little science going on here. So thank you for taking the time to watch, and hopefully made it through this, my ramblings on that. But I thought those were two pretty cool threads, so I wanted to make sure I kind of jumped in on that. Everyone have a wonderful week. Thanks.